Last week it was Atlanta, and tonight it is the other racetrack here in Indianapolis. Tonight we're in Brownsburg, Indiana, at a track formerly known as Indianapolis Raceway Park and O'Reilly Raceway Park, but now referred to as Lucas Oil Raceway Park. So as always, I am Evan Wall of Evan Wall Media, and beside me I have my partner Marshall here in Lucas Oil. Go ahead and let him introduce himself as normal.
Hey everybody, as always, I'm your co-commentator here, Marshall Crocker Jr., and I'm really looking forward to tonight's night of racing. I think if anything, it's going to be just, more of everything, more laps, more passes, hopefully not more chaos, but it's certainly going to be a ton of action, and I can't wait to call it alongside you, Evan.
Yeah, there definitely ought to be a night full of cautions, but hopefully not too many. Definitely plenty of exciting races here. Bill Harkins, driver of the 11 car, actually just jumped into our Discord, talked to us for a minute right before we got started, and he's a driver that actually has a lot of experience in real life here at this racetrack. There he is in his Ohio State themed Mustang. But he actually has a lot of real life experience at this track, and he said this place is somewhere where you really have to give and take, and looking at it, it doesn't look like anywhere special. It's a fairly flat short track. It's not banked too much, but just watching practice, I've seen a lot of guys loose and a lot of guys tight, just running on the edge of both ends of the spectrum. So there'll definitely be a lot of giving and taking tonight, and a lot of aggressive driving that will most likely lead to a couple cautions. This definitely won't be the caution-free race that we're hoping for, but who knows? I definitely think it'll be an exciting one nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think really what separates this from a couple tracks we've run in these last couple weeks is a track like Long Beach or Atlanta is just tough to run on your own. It's tough to just hop in a session, run some time trials, and get the lap to work and consistently put down laps on cold tires. Whereas here, cold tires definitely play a factor at IRP or Lucas Oil Raceway, but it's more of a case of, as you mentioned, how you interact with other cars. It's easy to run by yourself, but it's hard to run in packs of 3 guys, 3 wide. It's such a small track here, so Lucas Oil Raceway, well under a mile. Certainly not going to be, fighting for a ton of room here. You got to work with what you have, and in that respect, I think it'll be something different. I think if guys can work together and show the level of restraint and level of patience we saw at Atlanta when we had a caution-free race last week, if we can see that, I think it'll be relatively unchaotic. But man, if guys don't kind of back off early and let the race come to them, we could see quite the night ahead of ourselves here.
Yeah, for sure. And some of you guys, you may be wondering what all these different paint schemes are for. Well, the sponsor of this race, since we're here in the home of the Big Ten, wanted to go ahead and make this race just all about college football paint schemes specifically. So we've got a lot of guys. Of course, I got to pick out my favorite, the 27 car of Michael Ramos, running the big Alabama A on the back. Of course, I myself am an Alabama fan, a student here at the University of Alabama, so got to go ahead and give a big old shout out to the 27 car Michael Ramos, sitting right now 23rd in practice, but let's hope we're going to see that big A up at the front once we actually get going here in the race. And speaking of practice, the 92 car of Tony Hilbrand's with the quickest time so far, but Hogan and Guzik not too far behind. Then we got Lacey and Ricky Hart Jr. really close there in practice. I think that says something if you look over there. 0.03, 0.03, 0.04, 0.04, just some really close lap times up there at the top. So that just really shows it's going to be a good night of racing here tonight with a bunch of fast drivers.
Yeah, we definitely got a ton of parity in this series, as we've seen all season. Guys have come so close to podiums. Some have gotten them, but it's been really hard to repeat for guys all year. And what excites me is the fact that of the top 4 right now in practice, none of them have a win so far this season. The first being Ricky Hart Jr., who got one last week. So we got some parity. We got a ton of guys who could throw their hat in the ring and become the 5th, I believe, different driver this season to pick up a win. We haven't had to repeat so far. So it'll be a pleasure to see. I'm looking forward to seeing if we can crown said 5th different winner.
Yeah, hopefully so. And about to start qualifying right now, and if we look down, one of the things that I thought was just a little bit interesting, I've got my little sheet of facts over here. In terms of quickest laps here, the quickest track ever was an 18.289, and that was set last year in a super modified. Now, I just thought that was really interesting because I wanted to bring bring up super modifieds in general. If you just know racing from iRacing, then you probably don't know a lot about super modifieds, and I don't even know that much about super modifieds because I'm from the South, but I know that that's a big thing up here in Indiana. I know that that is a big track or a big event to a lot of the guys up north. I think that would be a really fun car to bring over in here to iRacing. That really doesn't have much to do with anything, but I just thought that was an interesting fact here about Lucas Oil and something that I wanted to bring into the broadcast. I think that would be really interesting to get a super modified here in iRacing. So somebody ought to get to working on that. Somebody ought to talk to iRacing about that.
I fully agree, yeah.
But since we're talking about quickest laps, the fastest time around this track in an Xfinity Series car was all the way back in 1994. David Green was the guy who ran that lap with a time of 21.766. But of course, today's Xfinity Series cars are much different than the cars of 1994. So let's take a look at Dustin Franklin, first driver to put down a time here. This is Brett Guzik. Quickly takes that away from him. Guzik with his first lap of 22.071. Let me go ahead and go to full screen so you guys can really see. Here we're looking at Dustin Franklin. He's about to put his second lap down. Let's see if we can find somebody to follow. We know that the 11 car has a lot of experience here at this track, so let's go ahead and as we talk, follow him for a lap around.
Yeah, you see him now coming off of turn number 4 here, heading out of the front stretch, and it really just gives you an idea of how short this track really is and how difficult it'll be to pack as many cars as we have in the entry list tonight into the race. But there indeed is the face of Bill Harkins, and as we come around turn number 2 here, you see just how parallel the entire track looks. He's pulling off the track. He has done his laps, and I guess he has run 2. I thought that was only his first attempt here in qualifying, but he will qualify provisionally 17th, so for the time being, only 74th hundredths of a second behind, I should say, and yet that is not good enough. Now we're going to go to Trey Ellis, who's going to run a very, very similar lap here, taking about the same line, sitting a couple of lanes up there from the bottom of the apron. Really tells you what we're going to see here on cold tires with guys being a little bit more hesitant to use that bottom apron. Trey Ellis is currently sitting 9th. Let's see if he can improve this time around.
And this really gives you an idea of how quickly these laps are going by. You see it looked like he got a little bit loose there, but you can really see how quickly these laps are going by. You see 22 seconds up there, and you don't think much of it, but 22 seconds is a quick lap. It really shows you how short a track like this is. As the 4 car starts to pull off. Only got a couple guys out here on the track. Let's see if we can take a look at Kevin Foster in the 8 car. Very quick driver there. Yet again, we'll ride along on his roll bar, see what it looks like from inside.
Kevin Foster all season, a guy who stayed really consistent, is a guy that we talked about in the pre-race as one that you see very rarely making mistakes. And, well, I'd imagine he'll probably put down a banker lap right here and then really try to put up a top time and try to put himself right at the front of the grid. Let's see where he goes provisionally right now. He's going to go to 8th on his first attempt. Second lap here, he's got time to improve, only 22 hundredths away from the pole, so that's not too much to make up here on warmer tires on lap 2. He's going to come here out of turn 4. He's got a pretty good run. I think he's off the gas a little bit from his first lap and got a little bit loose there on exit, but yeah, he still ran a good lap, but he'll move provisionally to 10th now. He was bumped down. Sorry, no, he's still in 8th, I should say. So not a bad lap. Now he's going to take a spin there in turn 2 on the exit, but well, he got the lap and then he needed it. He's going to match his car number with his position. And now to our current provisional pole sitter, Mr. Ricky Hart Jr.
Yeah, Ricky, one of the last guys to run a time here. So far, there have only been 4 other guys not on track, but Ricky, one of the last guys to run a time in his first lap up to the pole position. This is his second lap coming across the line now. Let's see if he can improve it. Won't be able to, but the first lap was enough to get him up there on the pole with the 22.063. Brett Guzik in the 04 right behind him in second place. Only one other driver on track. So the 6 car of Gary Wright, a new name, I believe. I don't believe that I've heard that one before. There's the Texas vehicle, the 6 Mustang.
Yeah, we'll see if in his assumed debut, the same as you, I don't believe I've heard of him in this series before, so we'll see what that Longhorns number 6 car can do here as he comes around turn number 4. Not running a ton of pace compared to what we just saw with Ricky Hart there to the corner. I think he's maybe just doing a warm-up, or he's coming to the end of his lap, so He ran provisionally 32nd. He ran in the 25s, but he got a lap down, and really that's all you got to do as qualifying comes to an end.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to grid here. And let's go ahead and pull up our starting grid. Sorry, hit the wrong button right there. Let's go ahead and pull up our starting grid. Starting on the pole is going to be the number 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. Outside of him, the 04, Brett Guzik, followed by the 85 of Cody Welch. We have Dustin Franklin, Tony Hillbrands, Christopher Ferrara, Curtis Yancey, Benny Hogan, Kevin Foster, and Benjamin Lacey to round out your top 10.
Starting off row 6, we got Trey Ellis in the 4 car with Eddie Hagee to his outside. Michael Ramos running in the Alabama livery, starting in 13th. Then Thomas Fensler at his outside, running in the 14th position. David Leakey in 15th with Cale Zook to his outside in 16th. Robert Mathis will start 17th with Matt Crockett starting 18th. Mac Nelson will start in 19th, and to his outside, Mr. Hunter Henry.
Corey Shepard, the number 12 car, will be in 21st position, followed by Victor Weaver in the 23. Then we have Jason Greenwell of the 83. Then in 24th, Brandon Trogdon, followed by Bill Harkins, the 11 car, in 25th. In 26th, Peter Murphy of the 38th. Then we have Jarrett Grodzecki, Bryce Buffmack, Terry Condis, and Alan Castle in 30th.
And to round out your grid, in 31st, we have Joey Zaremba. To his outside, Gary Wright, who we just watched take his final lap. Then Tyler Rowland, Garrett Hall, and Mason Flagar in 33rd, 34th, and 35th, respectively, none of the 3 of which ran a lap in qualifying.
So for all of the colleges that are being represented here, I don't believe that I see 2 of many, but we have 2 University of Nevada, Las Vegas guys, and we also have, I believe, 2 Ohio State guys. So red and white showing up multiple times. A lot of people fans of them. Unfortunately, not sure how somebody could be an Ohio State fan, but I don't know. That's just my opinion. But here we go as we get to roll in the 64 car, the Materia Tattoo Supra. Is going to be the one to lead us to green. The 04 car going to be on his outside, as we said. Guzik in the Purdue vehicle. And then the 60 car of Dustin Franklin up there in 4th position, I believe. It's only right that we mention him. He won our first race at Daytona, but since then he hasn't necessarily been up front. I mean, we've seen him up front at some times, but he's been more a middle of the pack to back of the pack kind of guy. And there he is up there qualifying in 5th position. So a great spot for him.
Yeah, you're definitely right. He to say that he cooled off a little bit, I think would be fairly true. He was always consistent. I think he scored good points in the last couple of weeks. It's just that, you know, he hasn't been able to find this top of the line pace since that race at Daytona. But again, as you mentioned, tonight he's found a new side, and he's going to qualify all the way up there next to some pretty proven names this season so far. So he's sitting behind Brett Guzik, who I'd imagine should probably get as good of a jump as any there from that outside line. So we'll see what he can do here as we come to the green flag. Yeah,
Brett Guzik, really fast driver, but you see the pace car go ahead and taking the dive onto pit road, and the 64 car, the Materia Tattoo Supra, going to be leading us to green here at Lucas Oil Raceway. And the Bandit Racing League, as they head onto the front straightaway, is off. Green flag here at Lucas Oil Raceway. The field spreading out behind the 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr.
Well, I kind of called it there. Off the very first corner, Brett Guzik gets a great run, but it's not going to matter. Caution comes out almost immediately there on the very first lap. Keeping an eye on who that may be for. It doesn't look like it's anybody in the top half of the field, so we'll have to investigate what that would be.
Had to replay. It should be Bryce Buffmack. A little bit of damage there. And there's Victor Weaver in the Viagra car. Big damage for him, as well as Mason Flagar, 72 vehicle. So a good bit of damage for both of those guys. Let's go ahead and watch it one more time. So you watch that Oregon vehicle and the Viagra one. Just a little bit of a chain reaction, kind of the accordion effect that you see at some of the bigger tracks, still in effect here at short tracks, but just a little bit off, and no big deal though. First caution is out. We'll see if anybody wants to come in and get a service.
I mean, that first caution really, for me, Evan, kind of proved the point that, here at the short tracks, you just have so little room to work with to avoid an incident. You saw once guys started checking up there up front, it's not like you have the inside or the outside to dip off to avoid what's happening in front. You got to either brake and hope the guy behind you brakes, or just keep going and run into him. And there, a bunch of guys didn't really have a choice. And thus, we do have our first caution of the day. But yeah, interesting to see if any of the guys up front will come into the pits. Doesn't look like any of the top 5 will for the time being. And I mean, fairly enough. Of course, you have limited tires, and fuel isn't going to start playing into effect until later in the run. So I'd imagine we're going to see most of the guys on the top, probably 20, 25 of the leaderboard, staying on the track.
Yeah, and that's just, you hear people talk about the accordion effect, and that's really what it is. If you just think about an accordion, when you stretch it out, that's really what happens when these drivers get going green. They get stretched out, and then all of a sudden they get squeezed back together once they start to dive into turn 1, and they have to actually slow down. And it's really hard to go from practicing all by yourself to the race with a bunch of people. You really just have to remember that, and it's hard to remember a lot of the times that you just have to get good and slowed down and make sure you leave plenty of room, especially on the first few laps.
Yeah, not only is it about warming your tires up, but it's really just about kind of figuring out how the lines are gonna work. Because really, if you just do your own thing, chances are somebody in front of you will make a mistake, maybe slip at a line, and if you can avoid an incident, you're going to keep getting positions over the course of the run without the need for these crashes. So I think with the limited quick repairs, with the limited tires, I think the best thing to do would be to not force that accordion effect, not bunch up as tight as you normally would here, at least in these first couple restarts. So we'll see now that we've had a caution and people have been reminded that, okay, this could be a caution fest if we're not careful. Maybe this will be the reminder that they need to keep it a little more conservative and safe here on this very first restart.
Yeah, I believe that it will be. And here's we see the lights out on the pace car. The 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. up there on the outside line. The 04 of Brett Guzik going to be down on the inside line as the pace car dives onto pit road.
Yeah, bold move as we get ready to go green. I think they got a pretty good jump last time, and looked like we got sent pretty early down the run, so Ricky Hart will lead the field to green. He is indeed. There goes the flag. So Ricky Hart Jr. is off. Gets a great jump there on Brett Guzik and a different zip code into the very first corner already. Great jump from the defending champion and defending race winner.
And Dustin Franklin with the move on the outside line, trying to work his way up to third position. A great move from him. Able to make the outside line work, but the 85 of Cody Welch fighting hard on his inside. Right behind him, though, the 92 of Tony Hilbrands looking to take position, take advantage of whichever line works out.
Looks like right now, unfortunately, neither will. He's going to have to slot in behind the 85, who is cleared entirely there by the 60 of Franklin there in the very first corner. So great work there by Dustin Franklin. He's proven that not only did he move up in his qualifying performance to fourth, but now he's looking for a podium tonight as well.
And you see it's pretty spread out right now here. The 97 of Eddie Hagge, one of the only drivers that was racing for position. Behind him was the 17 of Thomas Finsler, but nothing to make of it right there. But if we go back a little bit, here you see the 77 of Mac Nelson looking to take away position from the 44 of Cale Zook, a battle back for 18th position, but everything else fairly single file already. Guys are starting to calm down, and speaking of single file, Ricky Hart Jr. out to a big lead.
He is, and one thing that we'll have to watch out for is how much the slipstream is going to play into effect if you can pull away a big lead like this, because Ricky Hart now cleared Brett Guzik by half a second, which, at a track like Lucas Oil is basically half the layout. So, that's a considerable lead, and it's one that if he can stay out of the slipstream there, which of course he's in, but if he can make the dirty air that the car behind has to take into the corners work well enough, he can probably keep that bubble there and keep that gap he's got up there up front. But a little ways back, I don't know how much longer there's going to be a gap here between the 60 and the 85. You see Cody Welch dropping to the inside, got a pretty good run off of two. He's just barely going to get to the corner panel, but I don't think he's going to get the run off the corner he needs. As long as Dustin Franklin stays there up top in the more ideal groove, means he's going to have the better run off the corner, and in turn, it's going to be very hard to get past by the 85 of Welch.
Yeah, the 85 looking to cut it down low, but the 60 holding his position. Backing up the corner a little bit, and the 92 going to get into the 85. That's one thing. Here at Short Tracks, rubbing is racing, and definitely a little bit of rub in there already between the 92 of Tony Hilbrands and the 85 of Cody Welch. Welch now just going to jump back up in line and keep the position.
Yeah, it most certainly is, and you almost have no choice, really. It's not that every time these guys come together, it's going to be an intentional bump on one car for another for position. It just might be, well, you don't have a lot of track to work with, so chances are you're going to hit somebody. And luckily, though, we've had a pretty clean battle between these three here, but I think Tony Hilbrands might be the guy in the catbird seat in that battle as he waits for Cody Welch to burn his tires out, the longer he keeps jumping there to the bottom and burn more of that rubber, the better his chances are to make a move there once his rubber is far superior there later into the run.
And one thing to go ahead and mention, that lead that Ricky Hart Jr. had, fairly non-existent now, is not only has the 04 caught up to the 64, but the 60 of Dustin Franklin right now on the back bumper of Brett Guzik.
Whoa, big spin there to the bottom by the 04 car. That was an aggressive push. We're going to get a caution almost immediately as he does so. So the pass will not come to fruition, at least for the time being, but that'll be our second caution of the night on only lap number 14.
As we head to a caution, let's go ahead and head to our replay incident between Garrett Hall and Mason Flagar at the least. You see, you're looking at the 26 of Garrett Hall, 69 of Trogdon, up in the wall, up in front of him. See a little bit of contact between the 26 and the 72. Looked like the 72 may have just been running a little bit lower line than the 26 of Hall expected him to, and 26 pushed it in there and wasn't able to hold his line as much as he thought he would have been able to. Just racing incident there, and that's kind of, you really, that's one of the things when you don't have an actual spotter here somewhere like iRacing. If you're really relying on the iRacing spotter, it's not going to work out the best for you, because they tell you that you're clear up high, but they may not tell you exactly where every other car is on track. They don't tell you exactly what you need to know, because a computer can only go so far. They can't tell you the things that a real spotter is going to be able to tell you, and they may tell you that there's one driver on your outside, but you may not know that that driver is in the middle lane instead of the high lane that you expect him to be. That's just one of those things that happen, but still 16 laps down of 150 here at Lucas Oil. Ricky Hart Jr. still out front. Brett Guzik sitting in second position.
Yeah, Brett Guzik seemed comfortable making up that gap ahead to Ricky Hart, even after the 64 car's great jump there on the restart. He seemed to be pretty comfortable when it came to taking into account how the slipstream was going to push him further into the corner, make it tougher to keep that car on the bottom, but it was working for him. He made up the gap, and if it weren't for that caution, I like to think that he would have made that move there into the bottom of 1 and 2. Maybe not work for the lead, but certainly put pressure on the 64 car. One thing I just want to quickly mention as well is that Bill Harkins is appears to be having internet connection issues, so he is bowed out of the session for the time being. Hopefully he'll make it back in, but that'll put the guy that we were talking about earlier with experience to the real world IRP all the way down 9 laps down in 35th position.
See a couple guys already in the pits. Here's the 32 of Terry Condis decided to come in, and also Alan Castle, the 93 car, the Vanderbilt car, decided to hop on pit road. Only 2 drivers that have decided to come into the pits so far this caution that I have been able to see. But yeah, that's really unfortunate for the 11 car of Bill Harkins, off track right now. Definitely a driver that I thought was going to be able to make waves here. He's always a driver that is really good at the super speedways, Daytona and Talladega, but I really thought if he was going to be up front and dominating any track, it would really be here at Lucas Oil. I know he has a bunch of experience at this track. I would assume that this is his home track. I know he is not too far away from there, but definitely unfortunate that he already has to jump out so early.
Well, he's made it back into the session now, so hopefully he is going to, maybe not make up the whole 9 laps. If he could do that, man, he would probably put together the best race I've ever witnessed, but at least he can try to make up some spots in the championship. Hope some guys drop out over the course of the event, and certainly possible to do so. The lights in the pace car are now off, so we're going back green in just a moment, but to give you a good idea of how things stayed pretty consistent there in that first run, not a ton of big moves up front. Of the top 14 cars, all of them were from the top 14. We had 2 flips for position between 6th and 7th, and 12th and 13th, but besides that, everybody is still sitting where they started here, even after that decently long little green flag stint we just had. So something to look out for as we come to the second restart.
As we get going here, of course, the pace car heading onto pit road off the track. 64 car again choosing the outside lane. Definitely worked for him last time. So the 64 car, the Materia Tattoo Supra, going to be up there on the outside. For a Brett Guzik on the inside again. And the 64 is off. The Bandit Racing League back green again here at Lucas Oil. The 64 car again out to a monstrous start in the 85. Looking to challenge the 04 for second position.
Yeah, it looks like the guys in that bottom line really having a tough time getting a run off that very first corner, and Welch took advantage. He's jumped to the outside. He's going to have the more ideal exit at turn 3 here. Sorry, turn 4, I should say. So the 85 might clear him clean here as we come across the line next time by. He will. So Mr. Cody Welch up to second. Now Curtis Yancey has moved past Dustin Franklin. He's going to look at a move on the 04 of Guzik, and Guzik is still sending it to the bottom there. He tried that on hard earlier, and he's trying to get on Welch. Didn't work last time, didn't work there, and now it might put him under pressure from Curtis Yancey from behind.
Yeah, the 04 definitely trying to make that lower line work a little bit, and there's the 51 of Curtis Yancey diving really low. I believe he has a special paint scheme tonight, but it's not a college football theme, but definitely one that is still a good cause nonetheless. But the 51 car jumping low, trying to get in front of the 04, and during all this fighting, Cody Welch and Ricky Hart Jr. heading out to a little bit of a gap.
Not only a gap, but Welch almost had the run there off of turn number 4. He's doing a great job of getting runs off the corners here, really prioritizing the exit rather than the entry, which is something that both Yancey and Guzik behind him aren't so much doing, and it's working in their battle. It's helping them put up a great fight there a little ways behind, but it's certainly not going to allow them to catch up to Hart and Welch, at least for the time being. So Welch, again, gets right up to the back of the 64 car, getting the slipstream nice and early down the straight, but unfortunately, if you can't do anything with it on the entry to the next set of corners, well, you can't really get anywhere other than second for the time being.
Yeah, and Welch doing everything he can. So is Curtis Yancey, that 51 car. Oh,
Whoa.
and contact there between Curtis Yancey and Brett Guzik. The 04 of Guzik going around, and the third caution is going to be out.
Yeah, Brett Guzik did avoid contact with every other car, including a very narrow miss there with these two guys just heading past, but yeah, that looked like the same thing you were talking about just a moment ago, Evan, on the last caution. But those close margins where your spotter almost can't realize what's going on seem very similar. Just really close margins there between the 04 and the 51 off of turn number 2.
So here's the replay, the 51 and the 04. And just some contact to that rear quarter panel, and the 04 is going to be around. I don't want to say that the 51 did that on purpose. Maybe he just got loose or something, but definitely doesn't look good from this point of view.
Yeah, I wouldn't so much say it would look on purpose. It looked like kind of a side draft attempt there into the corner gone wrong. It looked like just a little bit too aggressive. Maybe kind of a little bit of hesitancy between pulling in the line and thinking he was clear and sending it there to try to get the side draft at the turn 3. So it was close, but I think overall, as long as the car's back in the race and the 04 of Guzik is as good to go as he appears to be, no significant damage, I think he'll be able to recover quite well, and hopefully we don't see a similar action in reverse going the other way later in the race.
Yeah, hopefully not. Though for Guzik is back in the race, even though he's scored all the way down in 31st position right now. But I know for sure if I was the 51 of Curtis Yancey and I saw that 04 in my rear bumper, I'd definitely get real nervous, at the very least.
Yeah. Yeah, 123 laps is a long time to not see another guy at a short track again.
We got a couple drivers coming into the pits. Curtis Yancey going to be one of them. So is the 04 of Brett Guzik. We also have Matt Crockett and Peter Murphy on pit road. Matt Crockett, one of the drivers sporting the UNLV scheme. Peter Murphy in the Oregon 38. Already a little bit of damage to that rear bumper of the 38 car.
Looking back up at the front of the field momentarily, one question that I do have going into this next restart is now that Dustin Franklin has got the two guys ahead of them that were having some well, not words, but figuratively there between Yancey and Guzik there, who were having quite the battle. Now that they're out of his way, and now he's just got Hart and Welch ahead of him, I wonder what Franklin's strategy is going to be on this next restart. He's going to be on that top line, assuming Ricky Hart once again takes his preferred outside start on the restart, which appears to be the better line. You saw there last time, Evan, that Cody Welch got the jump there on the restart so good that he got past the 04 of Guzik pretty immediately after. So we'll see if Franklin can use that similar speed, similar style of top line racing to do the same on Welch on this same restart.
Yeah, for sure. I would assume that the 64 is going to take that outside lane again, and this will be the first time, I believe, that we've seen the 85 car down on the inside lane. He'll definitely do everything he can, but I'm sure Dustin Franklin has to be liking this right now. Going to be up front.
One thing I do just want to mention before we go back to green is that Curtis Yancey has been given an end-of-the-line penalty and has been sent to the back after that incident. So it looks like the race stewards decided that he was indeed the one at fault there for that last incident, and as a result, he's going to get a lot closer to Brett Guzik than he was a moment ago. We'll see. We'll have to see what comes out of that. Hopefully, both guys keep a cool head about it.
Yeah, hopefully so. But those drivers will be near each other as they get ready for this restart after our third caution. Yet again, here is the 64 car getting ready to lead us to green. The Materia Tattoo off to a good start. Green flag out again. Curtis Yancey in the 85. Way back there, stacking up the field. The 60 car of Dustin Franklin down to the inside of Hillbrands, and the 92 of Hillbrands looking to make the move on the outside of the Blue Angel.
Whoa, big contact there by Hillbrands off the outside wall coming in at 2. That thing is loose. He's going to go around. We got another caution hits Lacey. Huge pile up here happening in the back, but most guys are able to avoid. Somebody just massively nailed the back end of Hillbrands. You saw the back end of the car hopping up in the air, but surprisingly still able to run. So 4th caution of the night, and very bizarre circumstances there at turn number 2.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate there for the 92 car. Definitely a really quick car. Seemed like it had been all night. So let's see if we can go ahead to a replay and see if we can really see a little bit more of what happened. Into the replay now. See, the 92 just got loose into the 88, into the 7. And just loose stuck himself up there in that outside wall. And the 8 car, I'm not sure who that is, just wasn't able to get around him. I believe that was the 9 of Joey Zaremba. Not able to get around him. Stuck up there in that outside wall. Such a short track, definitely. And such a flat track. Not only a short track, but I'm sure that 9 car was trying to turn down to the inside as much as he could. But by the time he saw him up there into the wall, there was nothing he can do. But I'm sure that 92 of Hillbrand's going to be able to come in and use that quick repair to get back out there. Another driver that I see is back out on the track now is Bill Harkins, the driver of the 11 car.
Yep, good to see that his issues were only temporary, and even if he's currently 17 laps down, at least he's back out on track. One important guy to mention that I know is currently sitting back in a very undeserved 29th spot, as in undeserved as in he should be arguably higher. Brett Guzik now returning back on track out of the pits for, I believe, the 2nd time in the last 2 restarts, so not sure what the purpose for that would be. Maybe for tires, taking him early in the race for an alternative strategy, maybe just topping up on fuel before this next stint, but whatever it may be, he is going to go to the back of the line for the next restart.
And let me go ahead and we'll jump to our Skype screen. You can see some of these guys who are running on Skype right now. We got Matt Crockett, Garrett Hall, Jason Greenwell, Ricky Hart Jr., David Leakey, and Bill Harkins. All up in the Skype screen. Just get you a little bit different view of a couple of our drivers. You can see a little bit of a behind-the-scenes view of them. So thank you to all the drivers that are participating in the Skype. Just got a message from our race director. The 92 car of Tony Hillbrands has been given an end-of-line penalty, so he will be starting at the back this latest restart.
Yeah, after the incident, he was already going to be starting pretty far back. Only a couple guys coming out of the pits would have been behind him, but this does kind of set a precedent for the rest of the race that, you know, race control is going to be looking out for that kind of thing, and what some people who are maybe a little bit more passive about calls and are a little bit more lenient on stuff would say, okay, well, that's just a racing incident. But I do like the call. I think it, in both cases, you know, significantly harming some other drivers' race, whether intentionally or not. And I think both were unintentional, but, you know, both situations, just one guy kind of, one guy at fault, one guy a lot less so, and they're making calls on it. So I think it's going to set a precedent for the rest of the race. Something these guys left in the event are going to have to think about. And I think in turn, it might make guys a little more gun shy when it comes to making big moves here at Lucas Oil Raceway.
Yeah, and one thing that I see here in the comments of the YouTube video that I want to go ahead and address. Someone asked, did Nick not make this race? I'm assuming you mean Nick Nickerson. And as far as I can tell, he did not make the race, so I'm assuming that he will have to take a provisional since there are 35 drivers starting here. If he takes a provisional, he will get points from the 36th position. So I'm assuming that he will have to take a provisional, as I do not see him here. But here we go, getting ready to start after our 4th caution. The 64 of Ricky Hart Jr. on the outside, and green flag is out. 85 of Cody Welch in second, followed by the 88 of Benny Hogan, and to his inside, the 60 of Dustin Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin thought about the move for a moment, but I think his biggest worry now is going to be the 13 of Christopher Ferraro right behind. Had a pretty good run there, it looked like, off of turn number 2, but actually Franklin was able to jump quite a ways ahead. Really tough to tell until a couple laps in who's going to have what pace over the longer stint. But man, the one thing that pops out to me on that restart is Ricky Hart can start anywhere he wants, and he's still going to dominate these restarts. What a start for the 64 car.
Yeah, a huge jump for him, and already out to a great lead. And you can see just, as we've already got another caution again, but you can see just how close all these drivers are running there. The 64 car is just so far out in front of everyone. Let's go ahead and head to an instant replay for the 5th time tonight, see if we can see what happened. Accident between Zook and Terry Condis. Here you see we're 3 wide. Terry Condis on the outside. Zook, the 44, in the middle, and I'm assuming the 13 or the 32 of Condis did not know that they were running 3 wide. Didn't know that that 9 car was down there on the inside. Let's look at it one more time. You can see the 32 on the outside, the 44 diving to the inside, and then the 9 of Zaremba on the bottom line. And I'm assuming that's just one of those things. The 32 probably didn't know that the 44 was going to dive down there. And just, guys, got to remember to be patient with your moves and really be patient with what you're doing when it comes to making moves here.
I think more so there in that incident. I think it was almost the 9 of Saremba there setting it really far down, and he had control of the corner. But when you're on the start of a new stint, your tires are still cold, you don't have the grip you need. If you're starting right there from the bottom on a track with not a lot of banking, really hard to get the back end around there through the corner and get the car to hook it on there on the apron and keep it all the way around. And there he just kind of washed out there up into the middle of the track. And you're right, we just kind of saw 3 guys squeeze together, all kind of share the same room and not expecting each one to do what they were going to do. So that was kind of a wild incident, but that will be our 5th caution of the night. And I mean, despite all the cautions we've seen, we are coming up towards maybe a third of the way through the race. So it's going by so far, and so far we haven't seen any of the leaders come in for pit stops as of yet, or at least none that would change the race order. So we'll keep an eye out. But for now, Christopher Ferraro, one guy I just want to talk about, has moved into the top 5. It was his birthday last week, and he had a pretty good race overall that I think ended in unfortunate circumstances then. So hopefully it ends a little bit better for him tonight. And yeah, he's sitting there in the top 5. It looked like he was almost going to make a move on Dustin Franklin on the last restart. So we will see if he's able to keep that speed up and if he is able to turn it into maybe even a podium tonight, his first of the season.
Yeah, and I believe you are correct, getting word from our race director now that the 9 of Joey Zaremba has been given an end-of-line penalty. Dove down into turn 1 and locked the brakes up. Just didn't time that move correctly, so he will be given an end-of-line penalty for the number 9 car.
Yeah, our race director and I seem to be totally in sync tonight, totally reading each other's minds. Yeah, I feel like it was just one of those things. It's so tough at short tracks, right? You know, everybody has a different opinion on how things should be called, how aggressively you should target incidents. And I think to some extent there's always going to be stuff that is just going to happen. It's just a matter of the track. It's a matter of being overwhelmed by how many cars around you. But I think in some cases it's, you know, saying early in a race that was an aggressive move, maybe just wait a little bit longer next time. It just sends a message more than it puts somebody out of the event for what could arguably be categorized as a mistake. So we'll see going forward. I think more so than anything, it's about how the guys that get those little penalties to the back of the line respond from it and change their driving style, rather than, you know, sending a message that they're not welcome or that they should just leave the race. So we'll see how the guys that have got them tonight will recover, as well as Brett Guzik, who does currently sit in 29th again, but he did start up there in 2nd place at the beginning, so we know he has the pace to do better.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Hopefully it'll get these races cleaned up a little bit more. Some of these short tracks, especially piling 35 cars on a track as short as this, sometimes it just needs a little bit of help from the race director to get it cleaned up, make sure guys aren't making crazy moves, make sure they think them through just a little bit more. But pace car is off yet again. The 64 and the 85 looking to lead us to green after the 5th caution tonight, and the 64 is off here at the Bandit Racing League. Green flag again here at Lucas Oil Raceway. Big move from the 64, the 85 following him behind.
He is indeed. Looking back a little ways, Benny Hogan there in the 88 car. Looks like he was able to hold off Dustin Franklin here for the moment, but now he's coming up towards Cody Welch. Close the gap in there a little bit closer into corner number 3. But again, Ricky Hart's had plenty of practice on the restarts, and it worked again tonight. Little ways back in the field, we do have a 2-wide situation between somebody. That's Eddie Haggy to the inside of, I believe, either Tyler Rowland or Victor Weaver. So Things getting a little bit more dicey there in the back, but guys starting to settle into a single file line. I guess they realized that after 5 cautions early in tonight's race, maybe best to just settle in for a little while.
Saw a little bit of a contact with the wall for the 17 of Thomas Finsler. He just got a little bit looser. Coming off of the corner, I believe, just got into the wall just a little bit, but no big deal. Still a clean car. This is definitely one of those tracks where you can afford to get into the wall. You saw the 80 car of Tyler Rowland with a big dive down onto the inside line, working the inside lane very well there. Here also Mac Nelson, 77 car, passing the 17, who again, just into the wall a little bit, and the 4 of Trey Ellis looking to follow.
It's looking really slippery here on this restart. We saw Cody Welch actually in second up front have a bit of a back end tap off the wall as well. So guys are starting to experience the oversteer more so than the understeer of this track, and we see Thomas Fensler again in that Bass Pro Shops entry getting a little bit wide. Actually shows up differently on your screen, but yeah, whatever his livery may look like, he was having trouble keeping the car in control there off 2, and you see it again through 4. So if somebody gets to his inside and he has that happen, that could cause some significant incidents.
Yeah, and that's why I'm sure you can see the 80 car of Tyler Rowland. He's really just taking his time as he stays behind the 17, and that's really what a lot of these drivers are going to need to do tonight at a night like this. You can't just dive up and under somebody, and I know that is one thing that I've heard the driver of the 64 car who's leading this race right now. I've heard him talk about this multiple times just after the race. He says one of his favorite things to do is just to stay behind a driver and watch him for a couple laps. He doesn't immediately try and pass him. Even if he has a run, he's not necessarily going to go up and pass him immediately. He's going to watch him for a couple of laps. As we see a little bit of a battle here for the 64. He said he's going to watch him a couple of laps, see what they do, and then figure out where he can pass him the best. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so good, is we see a little bit of a challenge here of him and the 85 of Cody Welch.
Yeah, Cody Welch could kind of focus on just, attacking the car in front of him, because that top 5 pack is all sort of separated from the guys behind. Less guys overall to worry about means that you can focus on making your move. Cody Welch is still under the quarter panel of Ricky Hart, so he's underneath. If he can slide up there through turn number 2 and stay off of him, he might get the move clean. Looks like he's going to. So Cody, no, they're still side by side off of 2. I shouldn't speak too soon. The 85 still pushing the 64 to his limits there, but the 64's got the more ideal outside the line. So off of 3. If he can clear him, he's okay. He does, and now we got to keep an eye over there for Benny Hogan trying to follow in the draft of the 85 car.
Yeah, definitely a fight here, as with 100 laps to go, we have a new leader, the 85 car of Cody Welch. Benny Hogan now looking to the inside of Ricky Hart Jr., see if he can make anything stick. Doesn't look like he's going to now. But the 88 of Hogan and the 60 of Dustin Franklin there in position to hopefully make something happen. Who knows? The 64 Ricky Hart Jr., he may be deciding to save tires just a little bit, or it may be that he used them up a little bit. Who knows which one it could be.
Well, it looks like he's been running a pretty consistent outside line there, which you think would burn up less tires, as we see him going side by side once again now, this time with Benny Hogan as Cody Welch tries to get a run away from the both of them. Yeah, he was running pretty consistently to the outside in that safer, more consistent outside lane, so I'd be surprised if he burned up tires faster than the rest of the guys in this group, but well, we're seeing again the results on track don't lie. As well, he's having quite the battle here with Benny Hogan. He will clear him for the time being, but both the 88 and the 60 definitely in contention to take away that number 2 spot.
And as this battle for the lead is going on, a couple drivers in the pits. See Mason Flagar and Bryce Buffmack, the 72 of Flagar, the 96 of Buffmack, both on pit lane this lap. Both of them heading off right now. Shouldn't be too much longer before we see our leaders have to duck into pit road. You see now that 85 of Cody Welch up to a fairly large lead.
Yeah, I was just about to say the one guy that doesn't want to have to think about pit stops right now is Cody Welch in the 85, who's just pulling away from the guys behind. I mean, when it rains, it pours. He just got the tiniest bit of momentum there on Hart in the 64, and since then he has capitalized on it and just taken off. I mean, a second here at Lucas Oil, seeing the gap that Ricky Hart had on his own run there at the front of the pack, it certainly tells the story of just how quick the 85 is running right now.
Here you see the 11 car. You just saw him go by slow. We'll see if we can see what happened to the 11. Heading to replay right now. You see, I believe he just came out of the pits. I'm not positive, but down there on the inside lane, inside of the 8 car of Kevin Foster, and just washed up the track. May not have known that the 8 was up there and into the outside wall, but luckily quick to get it spun around, and that's something that I don't think you see often at this track. It's such a little track that you really, the front of the field catches up so quick to you if you're on the tail end. But luckily,
On that is Mac Nelson in the 77, so going to go check for a battle there. Yeah, he is certainly ahead, but Trey Ellis is really nowhere to be found there. Might be falling back there, and now he's side by side with still with Mac Nelson. So the gap is a little bit different. But yeah, side by side there, the 80 car of Tyler Rowland might take this opportunity there in the interstate batteries entry. Oh, he's going to squeeze into the car ahead. Makes contact with Mac Nelson, keeps it on track though, kind of bounces off the wall and bounces back. So Tyler Rowland narrowly avoids a wreck and manages to keep going.
yeah, Tyler Rowland may not have known that the 77 of Nelson was up there on his outside, but he pinched him up there, whether it be intentional or not, and not able to keep it straight when you do that. If somebody gets you in your quarter panel like that and you're going to go head first into the wall, though, thankfully the 77 was able to let off and keep them both going straight.
Yeah, it looks like they're both relatively okay for the time being, though Mac Nelson's car is definitely damaged. You see the considerable front nose damage on that car. But now back up to the front of the field with Cody Welch, still narrowly extending that lead to Hogan now, I should say. So not by much, but where did Ricky Hart go? Continuing to drop back there even after it being passed earlier. So he is moving back in the field. Again, you mentioned earlier, Evan, you alluded to the fact that it might be to conserve tires, but I am wondering genuinely if this is planned and it's like what he did at Atlanta last week in the first stint, or if this is just guys finding pace as we get further and further into the race.
Yeah, you never know, as 64 car ducked down low and the 60 in front of him wanted to follow. I don't know if he was going to give the 64 the outside lane or if he was looking to block there. Not quite sure. Could have just gotten loose out of the corner. There's really so many possibilities of why drivers are doing what they're doing. A little bit of contact for the 13 with the wall now. A bunch of guys finding this outside wall, kind of almost like the Darlington stripe. Everybody's getting their Lucas Oil stripe here on the right side of the car tonight, as the 60 car of Dustin Franklin able to hold on to third position so far, but maybe I spoke too soon. 64 of Ricky Hart Jr. to his outside and going to make the pass as soon as I say it. 64 of Ricky Hart Jr. up to third position.
Yeah, I really had to overcorrect and oversteer there through the exit of turn number 4 to keep to the inside of Ricky Hart, so didn't quite get the run he wanted, which will put the 64 car back into the top 3. And now Dustin Franklin's got to worry about Christopher Ferrara behind, who, despite not making a move on either of these guys yet, has seemed comfortable about sitting right behind them, but he will make it a little bit easier to sit behind these cars now as the caution does come out for the 6th time tonight.
And a couple guys involved in this one. Let's go ahead, head to an instant replay, see if we can see what happened. A driver that was up at the front earlier involved Brett Guzik, the 04 car. One of the drivers involved. Let's see if we can see what happened. So Guzik on to the inside of the 29 and a driver sideways. Not sure who that was. And in the chain reaction, a good bit of drivers involved. Brett Guzik, Victor Weaver, Brandon Trogdon, David Leakey. A lot of drivers involved with that one. I believe that was the 23 car of Victor Weaver that was sideways. Let's see if we can see it one more time. Following along with the 23. A little bit of a bump from the 12 that put him sideways down into Curtis Yancey. And it's going to collect Robert Mathis Jr., Curtis Yancey, Victor Weaver. Almost got Tony Hilbrand's. Brett Guzik got into it 2 times. Brandon Trogdon up there at the top of your screen. Just a really bad spot for that to happen, and a lot of guys wrecked. Gary Wright, one of them that got into it. Let's see if we can see what happened with him from yet another angle. We're going to go ahead and ride on board with him with the wreck right in front of him.
Yeah, it looks like he was probably in the best position of any. He probably would have been about the first or second car to come up to the scene that didn't really have to worry about the incident. So unless he got loose or something, maybe hit some debris after the fact, well, I believe he should be good to continue going.
Yeah, he definitely looked good. Not sure why it reported to me that he crashed, but definitely still a clean car for him.
Well, with the caution now coming out here, as we see again one more time, the huge collision that those guys took. That was one of the harder licks you can take at a short track. And this is the part that I was curious about, because Brett Guzik kind of pulling out there, you could argue, in front of Cale Zook there, the two kind of getting together, and your instinct there as a driver is to get back up to speed and out of the way of the incident as soon as you can, but just kind of a miscommunication there between the 44 and the 04. So we will see how that plays into both drivers' races, as Brett Guzik, we saw earlier, already, I believe, had to use a quick repair. So he is going to be running low on them at this point, but we've already seen, I believe, the leaders' pit cycles. So Cody Welch, we'll see if he is still your race leader after this next restart. Tony Hilbrand's provisionally your new leader.
Yeah, and speaking of the 12 and the 23 car, end of line for the 12 car of Corey Shepard. As he caused the accident there, he just unintentionally, I'm sure, gave a little bit of a bump to the 23 of Victor Weaver, spun him around. But he will be starting this restart from the end of the longest line. So there, look at that 12 car of Corey Shepard. I believe that's first time that I have said his name, so must be a new driver in that number 12 yellow Camaro right there. So definitely welcome to the league.
Yeah, if you're still in this series and you've run every race and we haven't said your name yet to this point, I just think you got to do something more exciting. You got to win a race for us so we can be sure to shout out your name. But yeah, I believe that that is correct. But now Tony Hilbrand's now becomes your new race leader. And well, if you pull up a camera there on Tony Hilbrand's, you will see the noticeable amount of damage on the front of the number 92 car. You shouldn't be able to see that many of the internals from the external of the car. So we'll see if he comes into the pits again to fix that damage or if he opts for the track position over the presumed long-run speed. We'll have to see what the plan is there for the number 92.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see what he does because definitely a good bit of damage there to the front end. But Lucas Oil, being a short track, is definitely one of those tracks where you can still compete with a good bit of damage. A short track doesn't really take into account the aerodynamics that some other tracks are going to, so hopefully the 92 will be good to go.
I think we're going to extend the caution here. I just saw the caution get thrown again, so looks like we're not quite ready to go here. We are going to send the pace car out again, and guys are going to restack up. Looks like we were still sitting fairly single file, so I'd imagine it was probably a planned extension of the yellow flag. Here comes the pace car on track, so back to pick up the number 92 of Tony Hilbrand's. One guy that I do want to talk about quickly before we go back to green, the biggest mover of tonight's race, at least as the top 10 are concerned, is Mr. Robert Mathis sitting there in the number 29 car. I was going to mention him and go into detail, but I can't remember what school he is repping. Back up to the front of the field, Tony Hilbrand's is the control car. The pace car is now off. Green flag at Lucas Oil Raceway for the 7th time in tonight's race. That very damaged number 92 car of Hilbrand's didn't get the run he wanted, and Cody Welch straight to the bottom in turn number 1.
Yeah, Cody Welch with a good move, and that 85 is going to be your new leader as of right now, and he definitely will, as he is able to take the top line. The 88 of Benny Hogan now looking to take away second position from the 92, and the 64 of Ricky Hart Jr. will look to follow. 64 car looking to get back up front again.
Cody Welch just comfortably running away with it up there up front, but side by side now between Hogan and Hilbrand's. Looked like after that initial pass, Hilbrand's has relatively fixed his pace now. He's still sitting up there on Hogan, and he's got the more ideal line, so should be able to get a good run out of corner 2. Look at Dustin Franklin, though. He's to the inside of Ricky Hart, so 2 by 2, 2 rows of it there in this battle for third. Now Ricky Hart will move back up to third. Franklin is going to be shuffled back a little ways here, and Curtis Yancey now throwing his name in the hat. He's a guy we've seen make some big moves all season, and had that earlier end-of-line penalty, so to recover as well as he has is quite significant for sure. But once again tonight, we're going to have, I believe, caution number 7.
Cale Zook in the 44 car, the driver around that time. So once again, for the 7th time, let's head to an instant replay, see if we can see what happened. So we're watching the 44 car of Zook. He's up there on the outside line. A little bit of contact between the 69 of Brandon Trogdon. Sent him around, but luckily, I believe everyone was able to get around him. And the 85 car of Cody Welch is going to be your leader.
Yeah, he'll pick up the front of the line there once again. Looks like that short-lived stint for Hilbrand's was well, just as I say, short, because the car, it definitely looked like it had damage. I don't think it was a case of Hilbrand's necessarily doing anything wrong. He just didn't quite have the car to work with there, but he will bring the 92 car down to pit road this time to get some repairs, so hopefully a good sign for the rest of his race, though he will move back a couple laps in doing so. I'm not sure if I missed something, but he is currently off track as far as I can see. It looks like Hilbrands is not showing up as on track, so not sure what happened there for the number 92 car.
I believe during that last run, the 92 car disconnected. I could be wrong, but I believe the 92 car disconnected from the race at some point. So definitely really unfortunate there. That's one of the downsides of racing online, is that you've got to make sure that you have a good connection, and I believe that the 92 car just disconnected there for a second. So not exactly sure what that was about. Maybe we can see if we can talk to him after the race and see what happened. And as I say that, another message from Race Control. The 44 car of Zook given an EOL. Race Control says he came down on the 69 car, but the 44 has disconnected anyway, so he would be given an EOL if he's still here, but already exited the sim. I guess if you've already used up that fast repair and you end up at the back, Lucas Oil is one of those frustrating tracks that you just want to go ahead and get off of it as soon as you can sometimes.
Well, Curtis Yancey has actually done a fair job of making up that time himself, recovering all the way up to fifth. But one guy that I did want to talk about, who I've immediately forgotten. We can talk about Curtis Yancey momentarily, actually, because the comeback he's had has been significant. I mean, he started up front in seventh, so it's not like he didn't have the track position in the beginning. But remember that incident with Brett Guzik that actually Brett has recovered from, back all the way to ninth, so only 4 spots behind. But yeah, Curtis made his way through the field a little bit quicker, back in contention here, and yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with in this next restart if he can keep up that momentum he's had to this point. Just want to quickly mention, though, we are now halfway through tonight's race on lap 77 of 150.
Yeah, and that's who I thought about talking about. Brett Guzik, the 04 car, running the Purdue Mustang tonight. Still with a clean car, I believe he got into, but after the altercation with the 51 car, got into a little bit of an accident there himself at the back of the pack, trying to dodge some wrecks, but still a clean-looking car. I don't know if he's used his fast repair or not, but sitting there in 9th position. Definitely a good spot for him here. 78 now laps down in this race.
And we are getting ready to go green next time by. Hopefully we can get a good green flag stint to put some laps down and see what guys have left after this last set of pit cycles, I should say. And Cody Welch is going to elect for that top line. It was a favor to Ricky Hartz when he was taking the lead every time, so we'll see what the 85 of Welch can do with it. But for the first time, Mr. Benny Hogan on the inside on the start of a restart. So we'll see what he can do. The jump from the 85 goes green this time. So Cody Welch will lead the field to our 8th restart of the night. Taking off here. Benny Hogan trying to stay in the slipstream. Actually a better jump from that inside line than many have had tonight. Actually a very good jump. Came very close there mid-corner, but for the time being, nobody really pulls it a line there in the top 10.
See, the closest battle here is the 75 of Jarek Grodzecki and the 04 of Brett Guzik down there on the inside, working that Purdue Mustang inside of the 75 car, trying to gain that 9th position.
It's working for him so far. He had the spot there at the line, and he's got the more ideal line here as he comes in at corner number 2. So he's also got the slipstream there to that car ahead. That's Robert Mathis there in the 29. So it's working for him, whatever he's doing there. But now we see the 6 car, I believe. That is the, yes, that is the 6 of Gary Wright, is off the pace, returns to the track, no caution, and we will stay green.
Welch still out front, though, in the 85 car. Followed closely by Benny Hogan in the 88. But a little bit of a gap there. A little bit over half a second gap there. And then about the same back to the 60 car of Dustin Franklin. Ricky Hart Jr. sitting in 4th position and looking to gain any time that he can. But the 51 car of Curtis Yancey running the little bit more of a middle line as we have the caution out again here on lap 82 of 150. Corey Shepard, the one involved. Let's head to the replay, see if we can see what happened. All right, so the 12 car of Shepard. And then that was the 96 of Bryce Buffmack in the Viagra car. The Viagra car, the 96 of Bryce Buffmack. So Buffmack slow, the 12 car on the outside, and I don't know. I don't like to think the worst of people at all, but to me it looked like that Viagra car was going right for the 12, as then there you see the 6 and the 12 with some contact there after the fact.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about that just gives me a weird vibe. That initial contact looked like not only the damaged race car sitting to the inside off the pace, but that looked like quite the run there to take into a corner. I'm the same as you, Evan. I like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but that was significant. It was a stiff collision for sure, pun not intended. So that was a rough crash and one that I'd imagine that's the 12 car. The 12 car will continue going. So at least Casey Shepard, who again, as we assume is making his debut tonight, appears to be in decent condition. At least if Tony Hilbrands was running before, he should be in a similar spot. So as we get ready to go green this next time by, which is not quite yet, we got a couple laps left under yellow. Cody Welch, Benny Hogan will get another chance to attempt a restart.
Yeah, and as we say that, I'm getting word from our race director that the 96 car of Bryce Buffmack will be given an end-of-line penalty for that move there. Not sure if there was some history that we don't know about between the 96 and the 12, but nevertheless, just looked a little too suspicious. 96 car going to be sent to the end of the longest line. Luckily for the 12, you saw him come in and use his fast repair right there, so he will have a good car to go as he's heading out of the pits, currently in 18th position right now with 85 laps down of 150.
So I'll throw it to you, Evan. I've asked you the last couple broadcasts questions in this similar vein, but for this time I'm going to ask from your personal perspective, do you think with who you see up there in the top 5, top 10, the guys who've been competing for a win tonight, are we going to see our 5th different new winner of the season tonight, or is somebody finally going to get a repeat win so far this year?
You know, if I had to guess right now, I would go ahead and guess that it would be another new winner. It's just been such great runs from some of these new guys. If anybody's able to do it, though, my guess is going to be Ricky Hart Jr. That 64 car has definitely been strong, but it looks like a lot of these other guys have been strong as well. I mean, the 60 car, Dustin Franklin, has been strong, so if it definitely could be a repeat winner, but the 85 car, the 88, and especially the 51 car of Curtis Yancey, they've all been really strong. And then I've seen a couple of these guys that are back a little bit, but they're putting themselves in position to win. 04 Brett Guzik sitting back in 9th position, but he's still in a position to win. He's somewhere that he could definitely make up the time before the race is over. And even somebody like Robert Mathis sitting in 8th, maybe even Christopher Ferrara in 7th. These have been some really strong cars. Even the 4 car of Trey Ellis done a great job to get all the way back up to 6th position. You know, there's a lot of strong cars that haven't won, so just strictly off of probability, I would have to guess that it would be a not winner.
Yeah, I would probably go the same way, though. As you mentioned, Ricky Hart is, if anybody can do it, the guy that last week came from relatively out of nowhere in the first stint to win the thing in the end. Definitely a guy to look out for. But as we get ready to go green, once again, I believe this is restart number 9 tonight. We watched the 85 car, the 88 sitting significantly further back there. Might try to get a run there from the inside line before we even go green. Now we get the green flag. Cody Welch takes the field to corner number 1 for the 9th time tonight. Not the 9th time he started, but you know what I mean. 88 and the 64 are going to go side by side there. It looked like a great run there for Ricky Hart Jr. Actually, technically led of the two at the line, so he is making that top line work. But now the 88 is going to slide up in front and hold his number 2 spot for the time being. But there is caution number 9 almost immediately on the restart.
David Leakey, Kevin Foster, Terry Condis, all involved. Let's head to an instant replay and see what happened. Following the 84 car, the Kentucky Wildcats car of David Leakey. You see they were 4 wide there, and this is just not a track that you can do it. And the 84 car just came down a little bit on Kevin Foster, and just not a track that you can be running 3 and 4 wide. And unfortunately, that beautiful 27 car with the Crimson Tide scheme on it involved down into the inside wall. 32 of Terry Condis also involved. So definitely unfortunate for some of these drivers that were up until now, as far as I know, running a clean, good race, but just not able to keep it clean the whole way. As here's the 84. You can see missing his rear end there. But Cody Welch in the 85 still out front for right now.
I'm trying to see who is currently winning our driver running a university paint scheme sweepstakes, because considering the usual paint schemes up at the front there, we don't really have one until all the way back to Robert Mathis. So of the guys with the special liveries for tonight's kind of gimmick race we've got? Well, the 29 car is winning in that category. So Robert Mathis moving up a spot there since the last restart, running in his, what is that, Florida State, I believe, if I remember my sports teams.
Yes, sir. It is Florida State. I know it's hard for y'all Canadians knowing the how big football is down here. I'm sure it's hard knowing what every team is, but yes, that is Florida State.
Yeah, we have football, but we have a league where we try to get the down stand quicker because we know we're not going to do anything with them. No offense to Canadian football, but American football is so much cooler. And the only reason that I know schools like your favorite Alabama so well is because it feels like half the NFL is from there. So I are not quite as familiar with Florida State, but he's sitting ahead of an Oregon car who I recognize thanks to the very aggressive color scheme. So certainly some nice color schemes that come out when we do this university style of thing. But Cody Welch there running the scheme he's run all season, and he is putting it to good use tonight. You talked about the guys that could get their first win of the season so far and make it the 5th of the year. Man, Cody Welch, he's dominating the same way Ricky seemed to at the beginning of the race, and it's just kind of been a momentum race so far. And as we come up to on the restart, probably going to be reasonably about maybe 56 laps, maybe 55. Not a ton of time, really, when you think about how short the laps are. I mean, if we go cautionless, which I don't mean to say that we will, at this point, it looks like we're going to have at least one more if I had to guess to the end. But it could go as quick as 20 minutes, maybe even shorter if we go green to the end. So it could end quick, it could end slow, but regardless, Cody Welch will take us to the next restart.
Yeah, and the 8 car of Kevin Foster going to be given an end-of-line penalty after that for that little accident after the 84 spun off of his nose. Definitely just looked like a racing deal, but setting the precedent of giving end-of-line penalties, I'm sure you can't stop now. Gotta give them to everyone, even if that did seem like a little bit of a racing deal. But so the 8 car of Kevin Foster will be starting the end of the longest line here as we get ready. Lights are off on the pace car and we get ready to go. The 85 on top of the 88 for this restart.
And Cody Welch, again, he's sticking with that top line. Ricky was doing it as well, but I'm actually impressed with how Benny Hogan's been using that bottom line here on these restarts. We see the pace car head on to pit road. The green flag has come out. Oh, I'm behind. That would make sense. I was going to say we're on the backstretch in my view. So green flag comes out side by side with the 64 and 60 almost immediately, but Curtis Yancey, keep an eye on him, sending it almost 3 wide there for 3rd place.
Yeah, big move for that 51 car. As you see Ricky Hart Jr. and Dustin Franklin battle side by side. That 51 car of Curtis Yancey looking to follow in the footsteps of whoever gets the advantage here. Now even lower than Ricky Hart Jr. 51 car would run a really aggressive line into the corners here.
But he will not for long. There is the 10th caution. Got to make it an even double digits. So we are going to have yet another caution here. And but Dustin Franklin maybe capitalizing on that moment there. He was able to hold the spot off from Ricky Hart, so he will now start right behind Cody Welch there in this next restart in that much more ideal top lane.
Here we're looking at the replay, the 17 of Thomas Finsler. I believe that was Victor Weaver on his outside, and he washed up a little bit. Thomas Finsler, Victor Weaver, Michael Ramos, all involved in that accident. Let's see if we can see it one more time. You're following Michael Ramos in the 27 car. And just one of those things that happen when you get a bunch of cars like this on such a little track. That's just what can happen, and see a couple cars damage right there and a couple cars heading into the pits.
Yeah, really impressed how Michael Ramos was able to avoid that, relatively speaking, and keep his car relatively undamaged. But yeah, not a ton happened there, but it was certainly kind of eye-opening as to how the rest of this race might play out. You saw Curtis Yancey really utilizing the bottom. You saw Benny Hogan just kind of chilling up there up front. Didn't really have much pressure from behind for 2nd place. So if he can focus on Cody Welch and Ricky Hart will be occupied with Dustin Franklin ahead of him, we could see Welch and Hogan kind of break away here. But again, Ricky Hart, if this is just a long-term strategy, he's trying to conserve tires, this might be the next restart where he finally kicks it into gear and says, okay, let's focus on going for the win through passes on track rather than hoping for cautions and pit strategy.
And while we've got a little bit of time under caution, we're going to see if we can grab one of these drivers' attentions. Bill Harkins, this is Evan Wall up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Hi, Evan. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing running around out there?
Do I have to be politically correct? So, the start of the race, I go off into turn one, and my steering wheel stays at 900 degrees. It never turned. So, I started right off the bat with steering issues. And had to, leave out, come back, and now we're in the middle of Caution Fest, so it's a rough night.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to go ahead and get you on the radio here. I saw that you were back there sitting now in 30th position, I believe, and it's really unfortunate because you were one of my favorites for tonight. I really thought you were going to do good tonight, having the real life experience here, but just unfortunately not able to do it. But that's why I wanted to just get you on the radio, see if I can see what happened.
In all honesty, this should have been a good track for me. And all the practice sessions that we ran this week, I didn't have any real problems to speak of. I kept my lap times consistent. And I have so many laps around here. I used to run here every weekend, 6.5 hours to get here, et cetera, et cetera. So it's disappointing, but is what it is.
It definitely is what it is. And as we now reach lap 100 of 150, thank you for taking the time out of your quick little caution lap to take the time to talk to us. Well, good luck throughout the rest of the race.
Having me there, Evan. You guys have a good broadcast the rest of the way.
Yes, sir. Good luck throughout the rest of the race.
Thank you. Best of luck, Bill.
Yeah, that was Bill Harkins, the Ashtabula, Ohio native, Bandit Racing League driver, and really the guy who runs Bandit Racing League here. And like I said, really thought he was going to have a good night tonight, but just wasn't able to make it happen in that Ohio State car. As we're green again, Cody Welch with the green flag, the 88 of Benny Hogan under Ricky Hart Jr., looking to take away the second position, but Ricky Hart Jr. in the 64 car battling hard on the outside. Dustin Franklin in the 60 looking to follow.
Yeah, Hogan's having troubles here on this restart. Ricky Hart's standing immediately over top of him into corner number one, and now Dustin Franklin's going to do the very same thing, so goes from maybe battling with Welch for the win, just barely misses the back end of Dustin Franklin there, so been shuffled all the way back to fourth, and Ricky Hart, I alluded to maybe he's just been waiting all this time to use those tires. He has got to run. Ricky Hart is looking for the lead.
Yeah, Ricky Hart definitely looking for the lead, but Curtis Yancey and Robert Mathis looking to get into the top five. Curtis Yancey fighting really hard right on the back bumper, the 88 car of Benny Hogan, as we got trouble in the back. Brett Guzik, one of the cars around. 77 of Mac Nelson also around.
Man, I really hope Brett Guzik's force feedback is turned down tonight, because it feels like through whatever manner he's been involved in a lot of wrecks tonight, and that's going to be tough in your hands after a long period of time. The poor guy has just not had a good race since he qualified second.
To an instant replay following the 77 of Mac Nelson. Brett Guzik up the track there, and it looks like he just washed up, got a little tight, washed up the track, and just a little bit of a contact with the 77 of Mac Nelson, who unfortunately wasn't able to keep it going straight there after he got that bump in the quarter panel. And that's what happens when you get sideways in the middle of a straightaway. There's just nowhere for a lot of these drivers to go.
Yeah, but I have been relatively impressed tonight with some of these at wrecks, how we haven't really had like a giant traffic jam where guys kind of block the track so much to the extent that guys can't drive by even at a slower pace. So relatively we haven't had like a big one per se. Sometimes you get those at short tracks where you just run out of room and guys have no choice but to either park it, which causes more of a pileup thanks to the accordion effect. Overall, I think we've had a lot of cautions, but I think in terms of, again, it's kind of the same way as when we had a similar situation at Iowa. The top guys are doing everything well. Like the guys that are making moves here for the top 10 positions are doing it in safe ways, and they're not really putting each other at risk. So I think it's working well, and if we could like take that and copy that directly, like Control C, Control V that to the rest of the field, I think it would be a pretty clean rest of the race. I've been impressed with what I've been seeing from the guys up front so far.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a good run from most of these guys, and a fairly clean race from a lot of them. And one thing that I want to go ahead and mention, the 99 car of Brandon Jackson, unfortunately not able to make the race tonight. There he is in the YouTube comment section, but unfortunately not able to make the race tonight. I know he's busy with other stuff outside of the track and just every once in a while not able to make it to the races, but that definitely happens. He's luckily, though, has a win so far on the season, so he's definitely in the chase no matter what, and I'm sure he'll be back at the racetrack, hopefully next week, but as soon as he is able to. But just as I say that, the 04 of Brett Guzik given an end-of-line penalty. He came up, spun the car in front of him. You saw that. He just looked like he got a little bit tight, but nevertheless spun the car in front of him. So the 04 of Brett Guzik, the Purdue car, given an end-of-line.
Yeah, it kind of comes full circle there after that incident there at the beginning with Yancey, where the two of them got together. But since then, Yancey has recovered quite well since then. He's had a good rest of the race for himself since that initial collision with the 04. So 51 car is going to be sitting third in the line there on the outside, presuming, of course, that Welch takes it once again here. But this will be a big restart, Evan. This is the one that feels like it's the Avengers Infinity War, all the top heroes come together. But this time, it's the two heroes of this race known as Cody Welch and Ricky Hart, who I believe each apiece have had, I think, 5 restarts to their names. So they know what it's like to start in that front row, and it'll be really interesting, first of all, to see where Welch elects to take the lane there on this restart, but second of all, what Ricky Hart can do starting from a spot he's very familiar with earlier in this race.
Yeah, the 64 car now back up front, and I'm sure Benny Hogan feels good being up on that outside line. The 88 car has done a great job of starting on the inside line, but I'm sure Hogan is really happy to be up there on the outside yet again in the line that seems to get a little bit more movement on these restarts.
Yeah, it definitely does, because the guy on the outside is always going to get the better jump. The car on the outside is going to go as soon as they do, and in turn have the better line through the corner. But man, Ricky Hart, if anybody can do something from that inside line in the 2 position, it is him. It looks like I almost got him, Cody Ware. Cody Welch is going to go for that top line again. So we'll see if he can make it work. The green flag coming up momentarily. It now flies, so Cody Welch takes off there, gets a great jump down through into turn number 1. But Ricky Hart is going to comfortably keep the number 2 position, and he is still in the slipstream there on the number 85.
3 wide now, Curtis Yancey on the inside, 60 car, and the 88 of Hogan on the outside. 51 hangs back, though. And the 88 up into the wall a little bit. Benny Hogan up into the wall. The 51 car of Curtis Yancey looking to make the move to the inside, though. Not able to make anything happen, thinks better of it, and backs out. But down to the low line yet again inside the 60 car of Dustin Franklin.
Yeah, I think it's going to work this time. Yancey got a much better run there off of turn number 2 than he did last. He's going to stick it to the bottom once again. Might get the slide job done here up into turn number 4. But yeah, Benny Hogan was getting squeezed real hard there by Dustin Franklin. Really impressed he was able to keep it off the wall. Still side by side go the 51 of Yancey and the 60 of Franklin, and there he might have had the option to pull back into line, but we know Curtis Yancey, he is a big fan of that low line, and he is going to stick there until the 60 clears him entirely.
Yeah, the 51 car diving low yet again, and even the 60 of Dustin Franklin, he's not running the high line, he's running a lower line, and yet the 51 car of Yancey running even lower than that.
Caution comes back out, number 12 tonight. Got a good little stint there. Got a couple laps where we got some passes done, but we have yet another incident. We'll have to keep an eye on who that was for. I believe Brandon Trogdon was involved, but past that, I am not too sure.
Brandon Trogdon in the 69 car. Here he is on the outside of the 23 of Victor Weaver. And a little bit of a contact for the 94. 6 car Gary Wright also with some damage, as is David Leakey. So we'll see if we can see what happened. Locking up the brakes there, Gary Wright and David Leakey doing everything they can to try and avoid that contact, but not able to. After Brandon Trogdon got sideways there. But Cody Welch out front, 113 laps down of 150.
And they're now coming down pit road as we speak. All the leaders coming down. That's Welch, Hart, that's Hogan, Franklin's in the pits, Ferrara's in the pits. We're seeing everybody making their presumably final pit stops for the night. We'll see who wins the race off pit road. Ricky Hart came in pretty close. If he gets a quick stop, maybe takes only 2 tires as opposed to 4. Could put himself in the front, but I think he's probably going to elect for the 4 tires. He will. Hogan might get Hart. Hogan is going to get Hart in the pits, so Benny Hogan is going to move up a spot here. Robert Mathis is going to sit provisionally second on my screen. he would technically take the lead if he stays out. Ricky Hart is not leaving his pit stall. Ricky Hart's still in the pits. Ricky is looking upset. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe having some technical issues on his side. Still in the pits, still losing spots as we speak. One of your Alabama cars is going to make the move as well. So in the pits, I don't know how many spots he lost, but Ricky Hart is going to have a comeback to make here on this next restart.
Yeah, we saw Ricky Hart. He was on Skype here. I was looking at the Skype screen before I actually got it pulled up on the broadcast, and Ricky Hart he looked like he was messing with something in front of his wheel, so I'm not sure how his rig is exactly set up, but something in front of his wheel up near where the monitor would be. He was messing with something up there, so I'm assuming some sort of technical difficulty for him, but who knows what that is. Definitely unfortunate for the 64 cars. He's going to fall back a little bit. Let's see if he can make it up here. 115 laps down out of 150.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of cars to make it past. It's quite the comeback he would require, but I think, I just talked about it, but if anybody's got the potential to do it, it is the former race winner, former champion, and the guy that was leading quite a big portion of this race. But now, Curtis Yancey becomes your new race leader. I don't know if he must have not pitted, because him and Robert Mathis, two guys that, despite being up there at the front, definitely weren't there at the very front of the pack. So Curtis Yancey, new guy to the front row. Robert Mathis, new guy to the front row. So this is about to get exciting. I don't know what is happening there. Curtis Yancey is a couple of car lengths in front of the pace car, so I wasn't sure if he was getting a wave around or a penalty, but no. So this will shake things up considerably. If these guys are good on field to the end, which I don't think they are, that would definitely, it would change the complexion of this race, and it would definitely put the pressure on Cody Welch. But we'll see. I'm intrigued to see with these new cars up front if that'll change things, but the lights on the pace car have turned off, so we're going green next time by.
Yeah, Curtis Yancey and Robert Mathis, two H&M Motorsports guys, both sitting there starting this restart. Going to be 1 and 2. Behind them, Jarek Grodzecki up front for the first time tonight, as well as Murphy. And then Hall in the 26 car, another H&M Motorsports entry right there. But pace car is off. The 51 car of Yancey going to be leading us to green here. The 29 on his outside, followed by the 38 and the 75. 117 laps down. And here we are, ready to go green one time. The 51 car is off, and we're green again at Lucas Oil Raceway. A big jump for the 51 of Curtis Yancey. Robert Mathis right behind him, and Jarek Grodzecki into the wall.
Yeah, the 75 car really pushing it through corner entry, and the 51 car, Yancey's just taken off. He's off to a great start here, and definitely of these guys in this group, the one that's shown the most pace so far. But further back in the field now, you see the battle between Peter Murphy, and that's Eddie Hagge in the 97 to his outside. We've barely talked about him so far, but further back in the field, the 23 car of Victor Weaver has gone around. Is that a caution? It's a solo incident, so no, he's back up to speed. No caution. We stay green. Up in front, the Oregon Ducks entry of, what number is that? That's the 38 of Peter Murphy, is now having the 85 car of Cody Welch to his outside. The 97 of Eddie Hagge sitting right in front. Great run there from Cody Welch to put him back in the top 5. And now he's got Eddie Hagge to worry about up front. He's going to send it underneath once again. Cody Welch is done being back there in the field, even just for a few laps. He wants all the positions he can take.
Yeah, big contact with the wall there for Hagge, and Welch just wants to get up as far to the front as he can. I'm sure Welch is seeing how aggressive some of these drivers are being, especially once this race is starting to get over, and he wants to get out of there. He wants to get up front, get to where it's clean. One driver looking back a little bit further that we've seen seems to be loose, that 60 car of Dustin Franklin. We saw him up front earlier a good bit, but coming out of the corners, he seems to be getting real loose. 60 car of Dustin Franklin definitely going to be one to watch as he dives to the inside right now, trying to get in front of the 26 of Garrett Hall.
Yeah, a guy on new colder tires there in the 60 of Franklin. You got to think his tires are going to be working with him a little less than these guys around here, but we know because he was up front that he's got the pace to battle them once he can get those tires up to temp. But Cody Welch has made the move now in Jarek Grodzecki, so he is flying through the field. He is just taking no prisoners. He is having a good race for himself. Now Robert Mathis sitting in front of him, and if once you've watched Cody Welch pass as many cars as he has in quick succession, got to think the eyes of Robert Mathis now look like dinner plates if they show up on Skype.
Yeah, that Camaro is heading to the front. There you see him go inside of Mathis right now, not able to make anything stick, but I'm sure he'll try again.
Alongside all of this happening, and now that we have a caution come out, so we'll see who was ahead at that last timing line. I think Robert Mathis will take it, but he'll probably have to pit on this next caution. But Curtis Yancey, the one guy that did not want to see that, he was 2 seconds clear of everybody behind him there. And again, here at Lucas Oil, that is a considerable portion of the lap. So Curtis Yancey hates to see that caution come out, but as we get closer and closer to the end, and if he is indeed good on fuel, which he may be, this is going to shape up to be a good race for the 51 car going forward.
And back to the instant replay right now, the 77 car of Mac Nelson involved at the least. Oh, there you see on the outside of the 64 car, Ricky Hart Jr. Nelson may not have known that the 64 car was out there, and then you see Jason Greenwell come in a little bit later. Most likely just locked up his tires and couldn't get down in time. Let's see if we can watch it one more time. Again, here's the 77 car of Mac Nelson. Ricky Hart Jr. diving to the inside. And just two drivers fighting for the same position.
Yeah, Ricky Hart kind of being involved there at the very start of that thing, it really speaks to just how quickly he's trying to get through the field. We know he has the pace, and he's kind of doing what Cody Welch is doing, just a little bit further back, and with guys that presumably based on position haven't been up front through much of this race, you can probably assume. So it's a very different demographic, and Cody Welch was making it work on guys that knew what they were doing, were very clean there up front, and held their line well. And I mean, we can assume that all the way through the field at this point in the race. Anybody still left has to be to some extent making that work for themselves, but yeah, that's it. It's making progress for the 64 car. He had a really good couple of passes there that I saw further back. But yeah, you can only push it so hard, so quickly before eventually something like that is bound to happen.
Yeah, but Ricky Hart Jr., of course, trying to push it as hard as he can to get up through the field as quickly as he can. And while we're under caution, let's see if I can pull somebody down here real quick. Brandon Jackson, this is Evan Wallop in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. I know you're not out there on the track right now. I don't want to bother somebody with 24 laps to go, but I assume, of course, you weren't able to make it in for race time, but watching this race, are you kind of glad that you're sitting this one out, or do you wish you were in there?
Man, I still wish I was in here. Guys just look like they're having a little bit of trouble out here tonight, but I still wish I was there, man. Seems like the guys up front are having a lot of fun, and it's just crazy. It's just short track, man. Short tracks bring out the craziness in guys, and you can see it tonight. Guys just make little mistakes, and they turn into big mistakes when you're racing so tight with people. But I do wish I was out there. Do wish I was racing a lot of these guys, and maybe trying to get my second win of the season. But, things happen.
Yeah, things definitely happen, and with that, you think you're going to be here next week? We got Nashville Fairground Speedway. Is that a track you're excited for?
It is. It's another short track, another track that guys can have good luck at or bad luck, and hopefully I'll be able to make it. Hopefully our hauler, will make it back to the racetrack. It's been almost 3 weeks now.
Yeah, hopefully so. As the green flag is now out again, that was Brandon Jackson in the 99 car. Or driver of the 99 car, not out there right now, but the 51 car of Curtis Yancey with a good jump out there out front, looking to get that lead back again. Robert Mathis sitting there in second, and we got 3 wide a little bit further back.
We do. The sparks are flying and lighting up the night sky here in Lucas Oil Raceway in Indiana, and it's a huge battle happening here at the front. We got some big names here all involved in moves for position. Of course, the most notable battle being between Robert Mathis and Cody Welch here. The 85 is going to send it down to the bottom again. Huge run there from the bottom. Almost got into the side of Robert Mathis, but both drivers were able to keep it on track. And Curtis Yancey, this is what he wants to see if he wants to win with only 20 laps to go. Just wants chaos behind him. He wants Cody Welch to be occupied, but now the beast has been released. The 85 car is clear of the 29. And Cody Welch, who has led such a sizable portion of tonight's race, probably led the most laps to this point, is now going to start tracking down the 51 car.
Yeah, Cody Welch, this will definitely be a time to look at those lap times and actually watch the lap times that these guys are running. I'm going to go ahead and put up the last lap time on our left side of the screen tower so you guys can look and see how quickly the 85 car of Cody Welch is catching the 51, but you can already see just visually how much closer he is right now. The 85 doing everything he can to track down the 51 car of Curtis Yancey.
And he's making it work. I mean, again, I don't see the laps yet, but he is looking quicker. I mean, he had a lot more comfort earlier running that top line. With Curtis Yancey, he's really having to woe it up there on exit to get the car around the corner, and Welch doesn't seem to have nearly as much of an understeer problem. But keep in mind as well, he took tires more recently than the 51 of Yancey. So once he got past that period of cold tires where he had less grip, now it's going to work better for him on the long run. And if we get some, extra runs there, whether it be through overtime or whatever it may be, it's going to play in the 85's hand. But you saw just how loose the 51 car got. He is having troubles, and he's got 17 to go. He's got a pick here in Dustin Franklin if he can use him properly. But man, Curtis Yancey is going to have his work cut out for him if he wants to win this thing.
Yeah, 17 laps to go, and last time by, Curtis Yancey ran a 23.3. Cody Welch ran a 23.1. So you can see definitely the 85 is the quicker car, but we'll see how he uses the 60. Definitely not able to take too much advantage of him there. Getting through
he's going to
lap
get the run
traffic.
here, though. Yeah, he got a much better run there through turns 1 and 2, had the outside-inside line, whereas Yancey just stuck it on the inside the entire time. Now they're going to go side by side. If Yancey can clear him, he's okay, but Welch so close, almost slides the back end of that car up into the top side, but Yancey doing a good job of giving him some room. Looks like he's learned from earlier. He stayed really clean in these battles since that very early incident with Guzik. So I'm glad to see progression there from Yancey, but he's going to need more than just progression if he wants to beat Welch right now.
Yeah, and this is what short track racing is all about. 15 laps to go, and the 51 and the 85 battling so hard for every last inch of ground here. Both of them getting loose going into the corners, but doing everything they can. The 85 on the outside of the 51, seeing if he can make it stick. Not going to be able to do it, though. Single file. Yet again, the 51 car, Curtis Yancey, just barely out front. The 85 give him a little bump.
It's starting to get a little bit more dicey here, and of course it is. Every short track race I've seen with guys this close at the end is going to result in some bumping and shoving, and they got miles to work with. I mean, Robert Mathis in third is quite a ways back, so they can just focus on each other now. And if I'm Welch, I'm trying to make this move as quick as possible before you have to worry about lap traffic, because that is going to come into play. Look at how close they got. Huge run on the outside from Welch, almost piled into the back there on the number 51 car, but he keeps it off for the time being. Now going to be 11 to go as we cross the stripe. This thing is going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, the 85 of Welch doing everything he can to get past him, but right now, the 51 of Curtis Yancey, all that you want to do is you just want to stop your car right in the middle of the track. You want your car to take up as much of the track as you can and do everything that you can to stop him from getting by you, but a little bit of a connection issue maybe there. He pops back in there side by side. The 85 going to take the position from Curtis Yancey. 85, new leader here at Lucas Oil.
What a move from Cody Welch. He just sent it up top. What a run there off the wall. Yancey now he's the guy to watch. I mean, if he's got the pace that he deserved there to be up front for this long in the race, he's going to have the pace to catch up to Welch. But again, you saw the momentum that Welch had catching up to the 51, and just a commanding move on the outside to clear him. He looks comfortable up there on the top, and now with 10 to go, Yancey's going to have to pull something out of his bag of tricks.
As we head back here, these guys are still single file back behind, and there, right as we look at the 29 of Robert Mathis, a little bit of contact, but right behind him, side by side, Jarrett Grodzecki and Benny Hogan there for a second, battling for the 4th position. But a lot of these guys just single file here. 10 laps to go here now at Lucas Oil.
One guy to watch out for in this battle that we're looking at here is that's Benny Hogan there, I should say. The 88 car, he goes under Grodzicki. You see Grodzicki, the 75, getting hard into the wall. So now they're going to go side by side here at a turn number 2. And man, Hogan, you saw earlier, he was running in the podium spots for quite a while. Only 9 to go here. He's close to the back of Mathis. Can the 88, which has some significant left side damage, can he return to the podium positions before this thing is said and done?
Yeah, the 88 and the 75 definitely battling out, but the driver that I think is to watch here is the 64 car, Ricky Hart Jr., right behind these guys. He's running in 6th position right now, and unless there was a caution, I don't think he's in contention to win here tonight, but you never know what can happen. 8 laps to go, still plenty of time, especially as hard as these guys are racing. But here's Christopher Ferrara here from 7th position, looking to make a move to the inside of Ricky Hart Jr. But here Benny Hogan again, side by side now, working his way up side by side with the 29 car of Robert Mathis. The 88 looking to put the Florida State Mustang a position back.
Huge slide there from the 88 car. He had to woe it up real hard to keep it off the 29 car. We're going to go to 6 to go this time by. There is 2 minutes left if we don't get a caution. So this is coming down to the wire. Now the 88 clearly into the first corner, clears him by quite a large margin. So now the question is, as you just mentioned, Evan, Ricky Hart Jr., what is he thinking there in that position a little ways back? Is he thinking, okay, just send it up the inside, make some aggressive moves, maybe burn the tires out before you can get to the 88 car? Or is he just going to conserve and take the positions he has, think about the long term in the championship? But now 5 to go here. Hogan is well clear of Mathis, so he should be smooth sailing up to a podium tonight, unless somebody behind can make a move there on Mathis. Hart still looking for that pass into the top 5 in Krasicki, but for the time being, looks like the top 3 positions are all but set with 5 to go.
Yeah, Cody Welch still out front and a good ways out front. At that, you got to wait a little bit before you get back there to Curtis Yancey, who's sailing smooth here in second position. And like you said, Benny Hogan right behind him as he looks to get around the lap car of Dustin Franklin.
And he makes it clearly. He didn't put up much of a fight, so good job by Dustin Franklin to make it easy on the number 88 car. But a little ways further back in the field, this battle for 4th is not done. 3 or 4 guys in contention to take that spot, and you always want to get in the top 5 whenever you can. But Robert Mathis still holding that spot locked down, but Ricky Hart has got the run into turn number 1. Probably won't make the spot here, but 3 laps is a long time with how hard and fast this action is coming right now.
Yeah, contact with the outside wall there for the 29 car of Robert Mathis, but Ricky Hart Jr. not able to capitalize on it right now. Ricky Hart Jr. running the lane a little higher up than Mathis is and able to get up to his quarter panel, but I don't think he's going to be able to get to too much more than that. Maybe not side by side here. The 64 car of Ricky Hart Jr. able to take the position easily away from Robert Mathis there.
He is, and he's got the ideal line as well in that top line. He's going to clear the 29, and now Ferrari out of nowhere coming by Grodzicki as well. So now he's behind the 29 of Mathis. With the momentum Mathis has had, this momentum shift he's had, he's moving back. Maybe Ferrari can get him, but we head up to the front. Got to look at Cody Welch. We called it earlier, Evan. Might become the 5th different winner this season. He's half a lap away. Just got 1 more lap car to get by in that North Carolina entry. It took some fighting with the defending race winner, defending champion, but Cody Welch, as he comes out to the final turn, he survived the attrition and he's won the race. Cody Welch wins at Lucas Oil Raceway for the 5th round of the Geezer Authentics Xfinity Series. Great job there for the 85 car.
Cody Welch with a great job to bring that 85 car home in P1, and then Curtis Yancey coming up in second. Like we said, Benny Hogan in third, and then Ricky Hart Jr. there in 4th.
Well, Ricky Hart did everything he could to put himself back in the podium spots, and you know he's got to be happy with what he's done. But I'd imagine after the frustrations earlier, he's probably more upset than happy. But he came very close, and I really would have liked to see with 5 or 10 more laps what he would have done in a battle with the 88 car. But congratulations to Benny Hogan getting his, I believe, first podium of the season. But there are the victory donuts for Mr. Cody Welch. Got to imagine that he's feeling pretty happy right about now.
As we see the 85 car doing his obligatory celebration, we're going to pull up our race results. So, of course, finishing in first position, Cody Welch, followed by the 51 car of Curtis Yancey. Then we had Benny Hogan, Ricky Hart Jr., Robert Mathis, Jarrett Grodzicki, the 4 car of Trey Ellis in 7th, followed by the 27 car of Michael Ramos with the beautiful Alabama Crimson Tide paint scheme. In 9th position, the 23 car of Victor Weaver, then the 17 of Thomas Finsler in 10th.
Into the 10s, we got Hunter Henry finishing in 11th with Garrett Hall behind him in 12th. Christopher Ferrara falling back a couple spots there at the very end of the race, finishing 13th, probably on fuel, I'd imagine. Dustin Franklin, the first car lap down in 14th. Brett Guzik had a very eventful race, but he ends up finishing 15th in the end of the day. Matt Crockett will finish 16th. Eddie Hagee comes home 17th. Joey Zaremba will finish 18th. Tyler Rowland, 12 laps back, so quite a considerable jump there in laps from 18th to 19th. But Tyler Rowland will finish 19th. And Peter Murphy, who ran the Oregon Dex livery tonight, will finish 20th.
In 21st, the 11 car of Bill Harkins. Whole 18 laps back down. Then in 22nd, the 77 of Mac Nelson, followed by Corey Shepard, David Leakey, Jason Greenwell in 25th. Then in 26th position, Brandon Trogdon, the 69 car, 40 laps down, and the same amount of laps down as him, the 6 car of Gary Wright in 27th. 28th position, Benjamin Lacey, your current points leader in the 7 car. Then in 29th, Terry Connis, and in 30th, Kevin Foster.
Then running at your field after that, Bryce Buffmack will come home 31st. Tony Hilbrands, who qualified in the top 5 all the way back to 32nd after his issues earlier. Kale Zook finishes in 33rd. Mason Flagar finishing in 34th. And Alan Castle will round out the field in 35th.
And real quick, we're going to go ahead and head to a commercial real quick. And when we get back, we'll get interviews with your top 3 drivers. Guys, if you me do my best. Yeah, and he turns him. The 99 of Jackson gets turned by Nickerson.
But I bet you didn't know that I also do in-person photography and videography, as well as graphic design, including, but not limited to, iRacing paint schemes and posters. Check it all out over at evanwallmedia.com. Thank y'all, and you enjoy the race.
Well, to start off our interviews tonight, we got to go to a man who had, oh boy, what an eventful race you had there, Mr. Benny Hogan. First of all, can you hear us in the booth here?
Yes, sir. I have you.
Awesome. Well, first of all, Benny, congratulations, man. It was a race of attrition. It was a chaotic race for sure, and Lucas Oil certainly proved to be much trickier and much more different than we saw at Iowa earlier this season. But first of all, just talk us through the ending. I mean, you had so many cars to make it by if you wanted to make it into the podium spots there late in the race, and just first of all, what's it like to pass here at Lucas Oil? Is it an easy task to get underneath the car and get those spots rapid fire late in the race, or were you just finding openings that were not easy to come by throughout the rest of the race towards the end there?
I would say the latter of your statement there. It was very difficult, but at the same time, I knew there was enough time that the guys that didn't pit, their tires were going to wear out really quick. So I just picked and chose when I could pass, and there toward the end, I just kind of had to drive it in hard, not spin out, and try to make the curve, try to make the rotation, and go.
And speaking of the pit strategy there at the end, was there a decision to be made there for you about taking tires versus not? I know some of the guys prioritize track position and you prioritize tires. Was there a reason for that? Were you planning that long term, and are you happy with your decision in the end?
Yeah, I mean, I'm overall happy. I got a third. That's my best finish this season. And I know net gain or loss, I think I lost 1 position off of that decision. Curtis passed me, and that was the only positions that changed for the top 3, I believe. So overall I'm happy with it, and it was a good race for me, and very well hard fought.
Absolutely. And is there anything you're going to take, taking away from this being your best finish of the season? What do you feel like you did different? Do you feel like you kind of got into more of a zone? Was it the track that worked well? Or are we going to see you doing well at short tracks? Just what would you attribute your first podium of the season to in such a competitive group?
I would say practice. I did lots of practice this week, which I do that every week, but I was a tad bit more patient this week. I tried to let the car come to me. The guys, I tried to let them drive a little harder, and I knew I would catch them in the end. Again, it was a race of attrition, but overall I think the patience was a bigger thing, and yeah, I love short tracks.
Awesome. Yeah, patience mattered in droves tonight. It was a thing that some people had, some people didn't, but for the ones that did it, it certainly paid off. And yeah, you had a great race tonight, Benny. I can't wait to see what you do going forward, because so many different guys moving into this top rung. So many guys have had podiums, 5 different winners to this point. We've had plenty of variety this year. So I think if you can use that same patience in a similar race to this one further in the season, it could put you up even further there into the top spot. For the time being, as we're doing all the interviews, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to? Any sponsors you want to mention? Anything of that nature?
Yeah, I just like to thank the guys here at the Bandit Racing League. They put this on, and Matt and Bill, they put this stuff on, and you broadcasting. This is a pretty neat deal for me. I've never done anything like this. So yeah, and my kids and my wife, my kids go to bed early, and I get to stay up and do this. And my wife, she puts up with me not being there, so I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you, Benny. Pleasure to talk to you for the first time this season. Hopefully it's not the last. And yeah, just have a great rest of your season going forward, man, and have a great week until next Wednesday when we see you again.
Sure, you too. Thank you very much.
All right, and then finishing in second position was the driver of the number 51 car, Curtis Yancey. You got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, well, you had a great rally at the end. You did your best to try and hold on to the lead, but you weren't able to do it. What was really going through your mind when you were battling with the 85 car, trying to hold on to that lead there at the end?
Honestly, I was hoping my teammate behind me would hold him up a little bit longer. I think if he held him up for a couple more laps, I think we might have came out here with a win. But yeah, we had to play the fuel game pretty strong. We ran about 80 laps on a tank of fuel here at the end just because of all the cautions being caused. But yeah,
Yeah, that's another question that I had. How important was strategy tonight? Is that something that I know here in the Bandit Racing League, strategy is always an important thing with the tire limits, but is that really something that you came out here tonight thinking a lot about, or were you more just focused on running your race, doing the best that you could, trying to gain position?
yeah. At the beginning, the first 20 laps, strategy was important. But after the caution that I caused, getting into the 04 there on the back stretch, turning him, I had to go to the back. So I was thinking, we'll just pit here for some fuel. That really threw me off strategy. Going through the race, I figured, all right, I pitted on here on lap 24 or whatever. I can go about 50 laps, green flag run. That'll put me about 70. Then we'll make it to 130. But then once we got the one caution and I pitted on 65 or whatever, I was with the amount of cautions we kept getting, it was like, okay, just save fuel. Tires aren't really that much of a big deal, especially on the second to last restart. I pulled about a 2-second gap from the guys behind. But after about lap 60, strategy was off the table. It was just save fuel, and luckily we came out of here P2 saving fuel.
Yeah, still did a really great job tonight. And one more thing that I want to ask you, I know you're running a special paint scheme on that 51 car, so do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. The paint scheme I was running was commemorating Deputy Magley. He was the first deputy to die in the line of duty here at the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, my local sheriff's office. Just wanted to pay a little bit of tribute to him. I know we were running college theme paints, but his life was more important than running a college paint scheme.
Yes, sir, definitely so. Definitely a really great paint scheme to run tonight, and good that you can get that paint scheme up to a P2 position. But before you head out, is there anybody that you want to go ahead and thank before you head out tonight?
I absolutely thank the guys over here at H&M. You know, Robert Holden, whoever won the 85 up for a little bit. I think if he would have held him up a little bit longer, might have got the win. But yeah, I want to thank H&M Motorsports, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, definitely a good run from you in the 51 car, and I'm sure the way that you have been running that 51 Ford that we'll see you up front again at some point this season.
Absolutely, that's the plan.
All right, now we're gonna go ahead and head over to Marshall Crocker, who's with the driver of the 85 car.
Hey, Cody, it's Marshall in the booth. You got me? Hey, Cody, it's Marshall. Can you hear me? Hey, Cody, it is Marshall up in the broadcast booth. Can you hear me?
Well, not sure.
Oh, there we go. Hey, Cody, can you hear me?
I gotcha. Sorry about that.
Awesome. No worries, man. Well, first of all, congratulations. It was not an easy race for you tonight, nor was it for anybody here at Lucas Oil Raceway. It was one of those races where, man, attrition was the name of the game, and certainly clean laps are hard to come by. But in those green flag stints, you always seem to find pace. And is it something about Lucas Oil, after your experience at Iowa earlier this season, did you take anything away from that coming at Lucas Oil tonight? Are you a big fan of the short tracks? Like, what was working so well for you tonight in terms of flat out raw pace?
Yeah, I mean, I put a lot of time into this track. It was the first race I've ever done at Lucas Oil Raceway with these Xfinity cars. So I made sure to do my due diligence and put a lot of laps into practice, and I think that helped a lot as far as pace goes.
Yeah, I imagine so for sure. And overall, I mean, you raced against some guys there up front on restarts. You talk about Ricky Hart. You're up there with Benny Hogan for a while. The restarts were a big part tonight, obviously, with how many cautions we had. Was there a particular style of restart you found better? Were you trying to switch up your points at which you jumped? Were you trying to switch lanes to get people off their toes? Just what was your strategy there when we had so many restarts in a very caution-filled race?
Yeah, a little bit. The outside was definitely the way to go. This track race is kind of one-liney, so really not a whole lot of opportunities to pass. But yeah, definitely changing my starting points a little bit, keeping those guys on their toes, just make sure I could pull out a little ahead of them and just try to run some clean laps after that.
And speaking of, towards the end of the race, once you kind of got to focus on a longer green flag run, you had that battle there with Curtis Yancey for the win, and I know he hadn't taken tires there towards the end, whereas you had, which in the end turned out to be the better strategy decision. But that battle at the end there, you got up to him, I think, with about 18 or 19 to go, so not a ton left in the race at a very short track. Was there any sense of pressure on you? Were you feeling like you had to get that move done quick to put some room in between you? Were you expecting another caution, or were you just kind of cool, collected, letting the race come to you? What was your mindset there towards the end?
Yeah, I was just kind of letting it come to me, I knew I had a couple lap cars between me and a third place guy, and I knew Curtis didn't take tires there at the end, so I knew we were quicker than him in the end. I was just biding my time and waiting to make my move, and it paid off in the end.
Yeah, it certainly did, and as a result, you become our 5th different race winner of the season. I know you've been up at the top of the standings in a couple different races this year. You've had a really good season at this point, but now you've got the win. You've got something that'll put you directly into the playoffs. And going forward, I mean, is your approach going to change as a result of winning this race? Are you going to be a little bit more cautious going forward now that you've got that win in your back pocket, or are you going to come out next week or next Wednesday looking for number 2?
Yeah, we're going to come out next weekend swinging, man. Nothing's going to change for me. I'm going to race as hard as I can every week.
That's what I like to hear. It was a pleasure to watch tonight, and if you can have an exciting performance like that every week, well, we're going to stay in business for quite a while here on the broadcast side. It was a very fun race to watch, and so much of that comes from you. And as we always do in the interviews, especially for our victory lane finishers, is there anybody you want to give a shout out to? Any sponsors or anything like that? This is your time.
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody who watches these every week, and my family, of course. Carolina SimWorks, local 85 elevator union out of Lansing, Michigan. They helped me out a lot. And you guys for putting on such a good show. It's a great broadcast. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure, man. And yeah, Cody, you certainly earned it tonight. It was a great performance, and I can't wait to see you next Wednesday.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, well, that was Marshall with the driver of the 85 car, Cody Welch. And as we head back to this camera view here, that's going to do it here for us tonight. Next week, we are going to be at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Tonight is the other racetrack in Indy, and next weekend it's going to be the other racetrack in Nashville. Don't get it confused with Nashville Super Speedway. We'll be heading to Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, the short track there in Nashville. But that is going to do it for this week. So I've been Evan Wall, and big thank you to Marshall, who has been here with me. And we will see you all next week. Same place, same time. Thank y'all.
See you, everybody.